2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How do we navigate a mixed faith marriage and betrayal trauma at the same time?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. All right, B, this is going to be a good one today, as usual.
We always say that. Yeah. So it will be a good one, though.
Yeah, I think faith is a big topic, especially when we're inside of a marriage. So this is going to be really good.
Absolutely. Before we jump into it, though, we've been talking about a women's conference coming up in March.
The countdown is officially on.
It's on.
Yeah.
And people are signing up. So come join us. It's our Radiant Dawn conference. It's the end of March 24th, Southern Utah. It's $1,000 for the first 15 that sign up. So you want to get on it and get on it fast. In fact, by the time this is released, maybe that first 15 is already
might
sold
even
out.
be sold out. But there are a few spots left at that price. The other price is $1,500 for the normal price. But this is the kind of thing where you hear a lot about different conferences and things. If you want a conference where you're going to do a lot of experience and less sitting in front of a TV screen with slides, this is the one. This is going to be active. This is going to go after your heart. This is going to be healing to your heart, and it's also directed towards a relationship, an authentic relationship with God.
I mean, it's spirituality. It's Christian based. Tyler, I'm really excited because
me too. I'm pumped about it.
Our men's retreat was spiritual, and no offense to the men, but get a bunch of women together and work on spirituality. And my goodness, I'm excited for it. So
me too. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So anyways, RadiantDawnConference.com.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So Sarah, welcome to the show. So to start, just give us a little bit of background, tell us what's going on with you, and then ask your question.
So back in August, my husband disclosed to me that he'd been using porn for our entire marriage. We've been married for almost 10 years. And that was something that, we talked about before marriage, and he said, oh yeah, I used it as a kid, but I'm clean. I got clean and I am clean. we talked about it several times. Like I remember 2 specific instances asking him point blank, are you using porn right now in our marriage? And he denied. So that was a pretty big shock. So then he disclosed that. Then he disclosed a little bit later, some financial dishonesty. And then more recently, he kind of disclosed that he has had a pretty big faith shift, a faith transition as well. Which also, I know maybe it's not fair to say that it's a betrayal, but we have been talking, faith was a big part of our foundation of our marriage. We've talked about faith things and faith transitions for the last 6 years. And I found out kind of through a letter that he had sent a letter to his friend, and I found this letter, and I kind of asked him about it. He's like, oh no, it's not. And he was really vulnerable with this friend, and it wasn't a close friend, right? But it was a faith transitioner friend, right? So that kind of felt really hard. So that's kind of where we're at, is we're trying to navigate a new mixed faith marriage as well as all of the betrayal.
How many kids do you guys have?
Yeah.
3 kids. And so you're feeling like he's kind of confiding and talking to other people about really important things, spiritual things, and avoiding talking to you about it?
Yeah, at the time. Now he has opened up now that it's all out there in the open. So he is talking to me about it, but yeah.
Okay, so basically, if I'm hearing you right, things have kind of been this way, but when D-Day happened, there's been this cascade of other things that have all kind of lumped themselves together. So you've got the betrayal trauma, you've got the confusion over the difference between your own religion or spirituality, and it's just kind of this soup that you're swimming in and saying, "God, how do I navigate all of this?" Yeah, there's a lot there.
If you don't mind me asking, I know I'm not supposed to ask this, but about how old are you guys?
He's
how old
31
is he?
and I'm 29.
Okay. Do you know why
Probably
I'm asking
because
that?
I look like I'm 10. Or because that's the typical profile that you guys have when this all comes out.
Well, D-Day and coming out with the addiction and things about 10 years in, I'd say is pretty common. It's different for everybody. But faith transition stuff really starts to amp up in your 30s usually. And they look at it less as faith crisis and almost more like a stage of development in terms of spirituality. So it's no wonder to me that this is starting to come up in your marriage some. And it's interesting to watch couples navigate it. And now you throw that in with betrayal trauma, and there's a crack in the foundation of the relationship because trust isn't really solid. And maybe it's better now than it was, but it's not really solid. So it's hard to navigate something like that that's so important and not have that safety and that trust underneath. Is that right, Sarah? Yeah. So I think we do have some answers as to how to navigate it and some things that you guys really can do. So that's the good news.
Yeah, for sure.
So Sarah, I have another question for you, just so that I understand. Your husband, is he in a different faith than you are, or is he just in a different place in his spiritual journey?
Yeah, just a different place in his spiritual journey.
Okay, so it's like basically this idea of, call it a crisis of faith or something that's being navigated, but it's not like you're coming together from 2 different denominations and saying, hey, we need the kids to go to church at this place, or this is how we're going to raise the kids, all of that stuff.
Yeah. This is an unexpected. We came together. We're of the same faith tradition. We have been on the same page as far as faith for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So was the expectation kind of like, we're going to raise our family in this faith? Like we're in this is what we're doing. And then all of a sudden things are changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
How
really
does that make you? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I was just going to ask Sarah how that makes you feel. Like, I know betrayal trauma. I know the feelings there. Are there any different feelings with the faith stuff that come up for you?
I mean, yeah, they're similar. I would say this is harder, more so, honestly, to navigate. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the frustration. Like I've done a lot of research. I have a lot of friends that have gone through, faith shifts, right? So I understand stages of faith, and I understand, adult development. I've read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of studying. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to navigate when it's your husband.
Yeah. Is it fear? Is it sadness? Is it maybe a cocktail of those things coming up? Yeah, probably some betrayal as well, right? Like you had certain expectations and you thought you were sold a bill of goods and you're getting something very different, right?
Yeah, well, and that's part of it too, is he says that he hasn't really believed in any traditional sense of really believe, he says, well, I believe in a higher power, which is, but he says that he hasn't believed the way that we have traditionally believed for the last 2 years, which also kind of feels like a betrayal because he's been acting like he has.
Mm-hmm. Right. Putting on that front, it's I think we see this a lot. Brandon and I both see this as, as faith-going people, they tend to have to go through their own journeys of really coming to the conclusion of what they actually believe and agree with. And sometimes you've been raised in such a way that you just go through the motions for so long that it really does feel like a betrayal. When in reality, I mean, this sounds weird, but in reality, having him be honest with you now about this faith stuff is probably a step in the right direction compared to where it would have been if he would have stayed just going through the motions.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
That's a hard thing. So Sarah, you'd rather have him be honest than compliant.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yet his honesty brings up these feelings and this pain. Right? And there's real opportunity here. The same thing happens with betrayal, trauma, and sex addiction. There's real opportunity to galvanize you guys and to strengthen your relationship because of these things. Or this could destroy your relationship. And it's going to push it to either go one direction or another. But it depends on something. And they're if you want it to get good because of these challenges, there's a critical piece that it depends upon. And what that is trust. Is if you're showing up authentic and with integrity in the relationship, he's showing up authentic and honest even when it's hard, then you'll build trust over time and you can navigate who you are as individuals and be connected enough as a couple, and it can really create a relationship that is awesome for figuring life out, right? But if that trust isn't there, then what happens?
Yeah, I mean, the relationship disintegrates. We don't trust each other. I don't have the faith that he's, being authentic.
It's fear. It's yeah.
So Brandon, I got a question, because this is like a double whammy then with what you're just saying is that this is an opportunity to join if there's trust, but then you add in the betrayal trauma piece of it, which just totally erodes trust.
Yes.
So where do you start, and how do you try to tackle this stuff?
Well, I the word D-Day is interesting because what happened on D-Day, things were blown to smithereens, right? And so that's actually the start to rebuilding the trust process. D-Day is when things are blown to smithereens, right? And so, yeah, betrayal destroys trust. That's true. But there's work to do afterwards. If you're staying married and you're in a relationship still and you both want to be in that relationship, then you can do this work that actually builds trust far beyond how the trust was even before the the thing about it is the betrayal didn't happen on D-Day. The pain came on D-Day, but all of the betrayal trauma stuff was already happening. What am I saying? What I'm saying is you can absolutely take that horrible, painful thing, whether it's faith crisis, whether it's betrayal trauma, and work together and do the right kind of work to feel very connected and safe and just happy in your relationship. That's an that's possible. Tyler, is that true?
Well, we wouldn't be doing this work if we didn't both see and know and believe that it was true.
Right.
I just look at it from a place like Sarah, where she's at, or someone listening to this right now going, well, when Brandon's saying trust is the way to get through this faith crisis, but I can't have trust because this thing blew up in my face. What I'm getting at is that maybe the starting point has to back up a little bit to getting back to what does it take to start reestablishing trust?
Yes, absolutely. And that's really what I'm saying too. Is like, okay, if you're dealing with a big thing like a faith crisis right now, Sarah, and that trust isn't established, it's really kind of wobbly a little bit, then that faith crisis is going to turn into drama. It's going to turn into fear cycles, resentments, assumptions, like all of those things that really hurt a relationship. And so, Tyler, I totally agree with you. Is the backup here is to not fix the issue with the faith crisis. The backup here is to make sure that, Sarah, you and your husband are individuals first and foremost who can show up authentic and honest and empathetic with each other, to make sure that you have the strength to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, Sarah, how, I guess just since all of this is sort of broken loose for you, how open are you guys with your communication right now?
I mean, I feel that we're really open. I'm hoping that he's being open with me. It feels pretty open. We're talking a lot, talking very often.
Mm-hmm. Do you get the sense that he's trying to show up doing some of the principled things that we would coach in recovery, like being transparent and being committed to whatever changes he's trying to make? And is there a feeling or an essence that that's actually happening?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So if that's happening, then what Brandon was saying applies here, where it's like, okay, it's probably small and not where you want it to be, but there is enough room to at least have some of the discussions that would go along with this idea of faith.
Well, and the thing about it is like, seeing you nod your head, Sarah, like, yes, he's doing, it sounds like he's showing up as a different man than he was when he was hiding a bunch of things. Right.
Yeah.
But trust isn't like, oh, good. Now he's a guy with integrity. You got trust. It's this process, right? And so now you're in the middle of this process where you're kind of like, I hope that he's a trustworthy dude. Like, I hope that. And now you take the faith stuff, and this is where, like, it's really cool, because you can take something like faith, something very deep and hard, and you can test trust out a little bit with this thing. And so the story about writing the letter to the friend is an interesting one. And I'm curious, what was his explanation to you about why he did that way?
It was for me. And he's like, I wanted his feedback on basically how to make it better or more convincing or whatever.
I see. So, but your betrayal in that felt like you're saying things to him that I've never known. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a guy he was roommates with for like a semester, and he talked about his porn and stuff in there, which is, I don't care. But yeah, just very vulnerable with a person that I felt like he didn't have a super close relationship with, but because they, both share the same faith crisis or whatever, that made him feel like he could be more vulnerable with him than he could be with me.
Right. So the breakdown in trust was you're opening up and showing somebody else who you are, and you're deceiving me because you're not showing me who you really are. Is that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I felt like he wasn't super honest about the letter. I found it on the computer, and I asked him about it. And he's like, oh, and so he would say that he wasn't dishonest. He's like, well, the letter really wasn't ready. It wasn't really ready for you yet. But like, it was a finished letter at that point. Maybe it wasn't how he wanted to send it to me, but.
So that might be true, Sarah. It might be like, hey, I'm trying to work through this so then I can go to Sarah and really have this conversation. But here's another question for you, is when the betrayal happened with this thing, was he defensive or was he empathetic and understanding as to why this would feel like betrayal to you?
I think he did his best to be empathetic.
Okay. You saw the effort.
Yeah, I think there was.
You know what she just said, Tyler? She just said, I didn't feel empathy.
I didn't feel empathy, but I saw him try.
Yeah.
Okay.
which I think is probably what she was also saying was, if she's reading between the lines on our answer, she's like, the answer was he was trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Tyler, we get the question all the time, how do I get into your groups and how do I get the therapy that I need?
We frequently have groups starting in an online fashion so you can get help wherever you are in the world. You can find a group that will help you with the things that we talk about. Brandon, how do they find you?
liftforrecovery.com. You can get into my Lift group. It's a full comprehensive group program, both for betrayal trauma and sex addiction. And it's awesome. So I'd love to have you there. What about you, Tyler?
We run what's called a Foundations of Recovery group, which is for both betrayal trauma and addiction as well, all online. And it covers the basics of recovery, shame resiliency, mindfulness, a toolbox, helping to cope with healing, and also different kinds of communication. And you can find that at lovestrong.com.
So there's options. There's no excuse now. If you are ready to work recovery, you can come work with me or you can come work with Tyler, and you'll get the help you need at either one of our programs. So come and join us
at lovestrong.com or
liftforrecovery.com.
Which is better than not trying empathy.
Right.
Like a lot of what Tyler and I see all the time are these guys that just get so defensive and gaslight and do all kinds of crap to their spouse with these vulnerable things. So he's like kind of destroying trust while at the same time trying to build it. Right? Which leaves you in this weird place of like, gosh, like I want to be, I'm sure, Sarah, you want to be safe for him to navigate this for himself, correct?
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's part of it too, is I've always felt safe to open up and share with him. And so like to feel like the entirety of our marriage, he hasn't felt safe with me, made me feel pretty sad.
Yeah. But
when you addressed that with him, what was the discussion like?
I mean, he talks about his own trauma and he's like, I've never felt safe with anyone. I've never opened up with anyone.
Okay. Yeah. Usually that's the case, is that, we talk about trust, especially in betrayal trauma, we talk about it one way, which is the betrayed to the betrayer or whatever. But it's actually a two-way street. And a lot of the times the lack of trust on the other side is really that I just don't trust anyone. And it sounds backwards, but because you're his wife and the one who should be closest to him, in some ways the fear and vulnerability feels bigger because there's more consequence if you were to reject who he is. And so it likely wasn't personal towards you as much as it was and is an issue that he's got to be working on to figure out how to break through that fear and step a little bit further into that vulnerability, which it sounds like he was in the process of trying to figure out and do.
This is where it's hard to know, because like I've seen some of the safest, most like just secure attachment, healthy partners be accused of being horribly unsafe and terrible and awful and all these things because of their spouse's trauma that happened long before they were ever married. And so no matter what, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. No matter what they do, they're not safe for their partner. I've seen that. But usually it's some combination. It's also the partner isn't safe. She's really defensive or scared or controlling or blaming, or all those things happen on top of his trauma, right? And then sometimes it's true that the partner just isn't safe, where it's like, look, I want to be an authentic, honest person, but if I do any little thing, this is going to blow up it's going to go nuclear here. Mm-hmm. And so this is really where therapy helps, I believe, where a good, solid therapist can reflect back and identify things like, look, Sarah, you're not safe for him in these ways, right? Or look, husband of yours, she's a very safe person, but you're looking at her like you're looking at your mother or whoever. I'm just making stuff up. And so to kind of differentiate those things out, because then you start to see where the work needs to be done, in terms of the trust. So it sounds like you say he's doing the best that he can.
Yeah.
And at this rate, are you going to be working at the best that he can forever? Is that what it feels like?
I mean, yeah, kind of, we're both, doing our own work with our own therapist. We're in couples counseling, we're doing all that we can, but it does feel pretty overwhelming.
Yeah. Brandon, I want to just ask this again, thinking in some tangible ways, because I liked how you painted the picture and you said there's an opportunity here for a reestablishment of not just trust, but connection, even if there's this difference in faith. And I think most people, when they hear crisis of faith, that might be one of the scariest things that anybody hears. Mm-hmm. So what would be, I guess this is kind of going on with what Sarah's question was, but what would be some of the tangible things that you'd want present for that process of navigating this crisis of faith?
That's an excellent question. So the first, let's just say the groundwork is that safety that we talk about, right? Where, let's say I'm struggling with something with God, and I'd really like to open up and talk to somebody about it. So I go to my spouse, and she already either has some wisdom that she's already figured out, or she has some judgment, or she has some fear. For her to just be a safe space for me to process. And it's not so much about the answer, it's about the process. And that's where the trust starts to really get established, is let's have a discussion. And in that discussion, you're going to help me to illustrate my truth in who I am and how I feel, because we're so safe together. And as that starts to happen, that's where trust really starts to, and connection starts to solidify. You can be you, I can be me. We love each other, and we're seeing who each other are by flushing stuff out together, by holding this space together. And then you do that over and over again on different topics. That's where real connection starts to happen. So I make it sound so easy. There's a bunch of things underneath that are undermining that process from happening in a lot of relationships.
One of the things that I'm hearing you say, Brandon, I'm going to narrow it down to a single word, is the ability to be curious. Yes. with your partner, which is really hard when we have such strong emotions tied to our own, spiritual beliefs, that it's hard anytime those feelings get shaken or threatened. But when there's space to be curious, meaning we can explore things together and have room to talk where there's not going to be necessarily judgment, there is something in that provides a ton of safety. I'd maybe pull out a couple others here. I'm going to, we always share our own personal stuff here, but there was a time in my own faith journey where I would consider myself have gone, very, very non-active in my own church and denomination. And it was kind of radiating through our whole family, and it was definitely a problem. And I was just wrestling with this stuff. And I remember going and having several conversations with my wife as we went through this process, where she kind of broke it down and said, well, instead of focusing on what you don't believe, what do you still believe? And then I started answering the questions of what I still believed in. And then she was willing to be a part of it and say, well, why don't we read certain books on those topics? And let's step away from even the text of our own religion, but let's focus on the things that you do believe. And so we ended up reading a lot of other texts based off of my beliefs about God, and then about Christ, and about lots of other things. And my wife was there along the way, sort of reading those things with me and having discussions with those things with me. And it was really nice to know that I had a partner who was willing to go the journey. I don't know where it would have ended. I've since kind of come all the way around personally to where I'm like fully active in my own church and faith again, but I feel like I've got a different relationship with God where I want to go. I have conviction. I have belief that I otherwise didn't have before. And that's worked out for us. Maybe I would have gone a different direction and maybe it would have ended differently, but the journey would have been worth taking, having had that like curious support through the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I know that was not an easy process for my wife. Mm-hmm. There were multiple times when I could see that her anxiety was raised, that she had worries about things. And to be honest with you, I think as a couple in a relationship, if we're in it for the long haul, I fully anticipate being that for her when she cycles through whatever she's going to struggle with, because I believe that we have an ongoing wrestle with God. It's not a get to a certain place and stay. It's an ongoing wrestle that all of us have. And it's nice to have someone to do that journey with.
Yeah.
But that's, Sarah, you're saying that you're in a different place than he is spiritually. And that ongoing journey with God that you're talking about, Tyler, it happens on an individual level. But we are fed, look, we're one in Christ. We're one body. We're connected. You're the half that makes me whole. Like spiritually, that's how our full measure of, and so I think a lot of times people interpret that as we need to think the same. And I don't believe that. I actually think you become one with Christ and with God by having the courage and the faith enough to explore together, and show up with your individual insights and thoughts. And what do you think about that, Sarah?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's part of the pain, is I feel like he's been taking that journey alone and been having because I feel like, I absolutely agree. I've been growing in my faith, and I thought we were having these, deep discussions and exploring things together, and he was just
faking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that hurts. That's painful. I want to, coming back to your question, Tyler, tangible things, and for you, Sarah, spirituality, it has some real parallels to sexuality. So where you're so connected as a couple, yet you're individuals at the same time. So, like if my spouse came to me and said, hey, spiritually, I think this about God, and it's totally bizarre and different than what I think. And it's what? Like, that's not where I'm at. Sexually, if my spouse came to me and said, hey, I want to do this thing, and it's totally bizarre and like, what? Like, it could trigger all kinds of things inside of me, right? If I, and this is my point that I'm trying to make, if I am interdependent with her, and I stand on my own 2 feet, and I have my own boundaries, my own good, healthy boundaries and confidence in knowing who I am, then she can say something that seems bizarre to me. And in that moment of bizarreness or whatever, I don't have to jump to defensiveness or fear and control. I can actually step into curiosity with her in that moment. Oh, tell me more. Why do you feel that way? Why does it look that way to you? You're saying the sky is pink. I believe the sky is blue, but help me understand the sky is pink to you through your eyes. Who are you? Why? Now, I'm not going to get to a point where I have to say now the sky is pink because you do. I can still believe the sky is blue. And so in that interdependent place, so boundaries are very important is what I'm saying. Boundaries are like my favorite thing. Your boundaries individually, Sarah, and being disconnected enough from him are important for you to be able to be safe for him. He lacks boundaries with you. And why can I say that? How do I know that?
Because he hasn't been fully transparent.
Yeah, so he's so scared of your response and your actions, and I gotta so he's overly connected to you and attached to you for his self-worth and knowing who he is. So therefore, it's hard to be open and honest and connected in your relationship. Mm-hmm. And so his individual work is important to solidify that, so that then you can take these topics and build trust and connection with them.
So what would appropriate boundaries look like?
Let me go ahead, Brandon.
Go ahead, please, Tyler.
Okay, so you probably already got some going on. So what Brandon's getting at is, number one, the first place you're going to start with your boundaries is looking at your own kind of core beliefs, your own convictions. You're not necessarily going to give up on those in order to keep the peace. What he's saying is there a way for you to show curiosity and still have the boundaries that you want to set to live your own faith? So, for instance, one would be, and I don't know, we don't know your situation yet, but maybe I continue to go to church and I continue to take the kids to church, even though he might not be going for the time being. Maybe I find it really important to still do my own whatever spiritual practices that I feel convicted in and that I feel help me. And even though he may be choosing to do other things right now, maybe I choose to hold on to certain beliefs, and when there's a belief that's certain aspect of your faith comes up and he's like, how can you actually believe this? Like it's totally false. I remember having a conversation with a really good friend earlier this summer about some of these things. And it's not that I'm going to go along with them and be like, "Nope, you're totally right." But I can at least empathize and say, "Well, it makes sense why you're questioning what you question." And for me, this is what I believe, and this is how and why I believe it. That in and of itself is boundaries. So I don't know. Is that even helping with your question, Sarah?
I mean, yeah, I guess, those are boundaries that have kind of naturally been established. So,
but Sarah, the over attachment to me, Brené Brown says that boundaries are saying, this is what works for me and this is what doesn't. I think that's more of the way to communicate the boundary, but I would say boundaries are much deeper than that, and it's more of knowing where I stop and you begin. It's knowing that who I am at a level where I can be me and you can be you. And so if you give him the wrong look and if that just shuts him down, then he's lacking boundaries with you because he's over attached to you, or vice versa. Right. So if he says, I don't want to go to church this week, and that rocks your world about who, God is to you and all of these things, then you're lacking boundaries with him.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Whereas the middle ground boundary is, okay, well, that hurts me that you don't want to come to church, and I'm sad about that, and I'm going to continue to go to church because that's who I am, and I know that kind of bothers you too. That's right. The boundary you're talking about, Brandon.
Yeah.
The stop and end part of where I stop and, and end.
Yeah, and you begin. So it's when two individuals lack a sense of self, and I'm not saying you do, Sarah. I don't pick that up from you at all. But when two individuals lack a sense of self and knowing who they are, then they lean on each other to try to figure it out or try to fill that gap. And that's where the boundaries really get lost. And that's where safety in the relationship can't be there, where, hey, this is who I am sexually, or this is who I am spiritually. And the other person freaks out because they're too reliant upon their partner for okayness in their life. Right.
What's going through you right now, Sarah?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, the hard thing is just dealing with, okay, so we've set the boundaries, we're okay with that, but then there's the pain, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess, is that just like a time thing, or how do you deal with the pain and the sadness that comes, okay, we're going to do this and we're sticking to our boundaries, but that there's that friction, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's also a lot of grief going on too, so part of this unfortunate truth of all of this is that there is going to be some of that pain. And then the question is, well, how do I navigate the pain while reducing suffering? Because this is going to be hard no matter what. But the way that I interpret things and the way that I respond to things is going to either increase my suffering or it's going to help me be proactive with things. So I might just suggest a couple of things that aren't going to solve the problem, but they're going to reduce the suffering. Okay. The first one is that every time that pain comes up, I think it's okay to meet yourself in that pain and to validate that it's there. And then that validation of that pain will allow you to move to the second stage, which is to allow for some self-compassion first, and if possible, compassion for the other side too. So if I can get to validation of my emotions and self-compassion, I can at least reduce the suffering and go, okay, this is a moment of suffering right now. We are in a rough time, but everybody goes through hard times sometimes, and I can figure this out. I'm going to be okay. That's going to encourage you to then move to another step, which is that in the midst of that pain, there's a whole bunch of different tools and skills that you're probably learning in therapy and that you're probably learning in your own recovery. I'd go back to the well on some of those things, some of those crisis survival skills, things like really healthy support from other people, self-care, lots of self-soothing, lots of like bringing your own physical responses down through that self-soothing, and even some grounding techniques. And then maybe once in a while, if it's really big, some healthy distraction, although you don't want to do that too often. It's okay to do all of those things to sort of help ride through this sort of inevitable part of the process that you're in.
Sarah, he can be a huge asset to you to navigate that pain, or he can be a huge liability. And I would just say, do not process this pain with him without the principles of trust intact in your relationship. So you're grieving. You're grieving, the betrayal is one thing. And so you're trying to come to some terms and acceptance of that. And now you're grieving with the faith transition. And so you don't have to do it with him. It's better if you can, and it will galvanize you. It'll make your relationship better. And that's what you would want, I would guess.
Yeah.
But make sure those principles of trust are in place. Make sure that he's committed to honesty despite the consequences of it, that he can be honest with you, not just compliant. That he's committed to, he's learning how to empathize, that he's committed to continuing to learn how to empathize and to get better and better at being curious with you. And then that he's consistent in doing those things over time. And he's showing you that, yes, I have this integrity intact so that I can be this safe space for you to process your pain and your grief. Well, hopefully you can be a safe space for me to process with you what I'm thinking and what I'm going through. Now, if you have this grief and he shows up as a man who doesn't want to live those principles of trust, you still can navigate and process that grief. It's hard, but you absolutely have the ability to work through that grief independent of him. Doing your own work, and a lot of things Tyler just listed off, like those are the things that you can step into. So
I might suggest one more thing here, depending on where you're at with your own sort of journey, Sarah, is that process of coming to a place of, acceptance of things as they are, and surrender is a really, really daunting, difficult one. But depending on where you're at with your own wrestle with your higher power, that is a place that you can lean for that place of surrender. And you probably go, I see you nodding your head, you probably go there 1,000 times a day and say, here, God, I'm giving it back to you. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. And then 5 minutes later, you pick it back up. But I think that there's something about that practice. It's got an element of letting go. It's got an element of surrender and humility that helps cultivate a heart that moves towards acceptance when you do that exercise, even if it is 1,000 times a day. of, here, God, like, I don't know how this ends, but I believe that however it ends, you can make it beautiful. And that exercise is really hard because it takes a lot of faith, but it can also be really powerful.
Sarah, I can just attest to what Tyler's saying. I've been there. My wife, she was getting into some stuff in terms of her spirituality and things that was freaking me out. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? This is this isn't what I ever expected. What's happening? And so what it led me to was really my relationship with God, and trying to decipher what's truth, what's not truth, what feels good to me. Trying to be as solid as I could be with my truths. And it's really fascinating how it's ended up, because my wife had to have courage to step into those things. It was really vulnerable, really scary for her, like really vulnerable. And I could have been so detrimental to her if I showed up in just my fear. But I had to step into this really kind of place of faith of like, look, I'm giving some things to God. I'm going to see how this process plays out. And it has brought me and my wife together in a deeper, more connected way than I've ever experienced. But we had to walk that space for a little while together, and that's what actually brought us together on this. So I'm a living, breathing example in my own relationship, Sarah. You're 29. You're at the beginnings here. I mean, yeah, you look like you're 10, but you're 29. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for you. It's busting open right now, and it's. The cards are in the air, and they're going to land in a pretty awesome place if both of you are committed to staying humble and staying honest. You're going to be okay. So,
I appreciate that.
Sarah, we're going to be running short on time here. Have we answered your question, or do you have anything else today?
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. Some good advice. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on this show, Sarah.
It's good to meet you too.
This topic of faith, you guys, for those listening, I know that this is a big one in a lot of people's worlds. Please share this with your friends if you think it'll be helpful. And again, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on today.
All right. See you guys.